Right.
Good evening, everyone.
Fine evening.
This is Gifty Annie, your mentor, your host for the Intentional Beacon podcast. This is a platform where we shine light on the power of authenticity and intentionality in professional lives and personal lives. And we also give our guests the opportunity to share their stories regarding how they have navigated life challenges with clarity and purpose, and to make a difference. At the same time, persevere with their mission. And so today, I'm honored to have no other but Dr. Edwin Ampadu, whom I have personally known for almost 4 decades as a generous and a supportive brother-in-law. He's also a dedicated medical practitioner over 30 years, where she has spent almost 2 decades to support healthcare system, train healthcare providers to deal with the neglected tropical diseases in deprived communities, particularly in Ghana, West Africa. So it is an honor to have my brother-in-law, Dr. Edwin Ampadu, with me tonight to share some insight regarding his personal journey and his professional lives. So, Dr. Edwin Ampadu, welcome to this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. I'm also very happy to be part of this enlightenment. It is something that has been very dear to me, and this is an opportunity for me to also express and then share with other junior colleagues who may be aspiring to become people like us or even more. So I'm very grateful to be on your platform. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Now, my first question is, could you tell us who you are as a person, so that the public and our listeners will know a bit about you?
Okay. Thank you very much, Gifty. Yes, my name is Edwin Ampadu. I'm a medical practitioner and a public health specialist. I have been in the system in Ghana for the past 30 years or even more. And my focus in the health sector has been to work in the rural areas to empower the rural folks to really take care of their own health, not necessarily having government to support them. Again, it is an honor to share, particularly the tidbits that I have gone through that I think I can share with other colleagues, especially the junior ones, to serve as a source of inspiration in areas of deprived communities in tropical areas like Ghana and some part of Africa. So that has been my area of work and also who I am as an individual. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. That is awesome. I'm sure you had to dedicate so much in your profession to reaching these deprived communities in Africa, particularly in Ghana. I would like you to shed some light on what actually inspired you in terms of your medical profession to choose to work as a public health specialist doctor in relation to deprived communities such as in Ghana. Just briefly.
Right. I started my medical practice way back in 1988. as a young medical officer. I was posted to the district, very deprived area in Ashanti, Ghana, where I had to practice as a clinician. And I did that for almost 10 years. And I realized that it was a bit monotonous. Every day you do this, you do that, you do the same thing all over. So I decided to go into an area which will be very challenging. And one area in the health sector that is very challenging is the public health. Public health is a very wide area where you really link between clinical practice and community and use that opportunity to enlighten them, to advise, and then also to empower them to take care of their own health, especially in areas where there are deprived resources. So I went into public health training in 1995 in Germany, and I came back as a specialist in community health in developing countries. So that has been my area of practice ever since, till somewhere around 2000, when I was requested, or when I was engaged to lead in the very dreadful disease they called Buruli ulcer, which was then a very devastating disease, skin condition. I held to promote the disease in terms of resource mobilization, in terms of awareness creation, in terms of case management, and even diagnosis, right from the rural level where the diseases are found until we're able to treat with them. And in those years, my slogan was, every case counts. Pick a case and you have to really see to it that it is managed and better. So that has been my motivation over the years, and I still work in the area of neglected tropical diseases. I must say that it's an area that policymakers all over the world, not only in Africa, all over the world, are not interested in pumping resources into that. We have over 22 or 21 tropical diseases all over the world that are neglected. I can mention a few. And in Ghana, we have about 17 of them, which we are dealing with. And in other Asian countries, there are many. So it's an area that I think is an opportunity for us, for instance, as public health practitioners, to encourage the young ones, not only to look at the other side of medicine where they do surgery and all those OBGY. They are all very important, but the bulk of the population all over the world are in the rural areas. And these are some of the diseases that affect them in the rural areas, and they have no one to talk for them. And some are deformed, others are, they have their body destroyed. There are a lot of stigma on some of these diseases. And I think going to that area was a motivation for me to make an impact in the lives of the rural communities. So that's why,
This is awesome. But I could also hear you narrating and highlighting key thought force or challenges already that has been you've already faced. That is going to be my next question. You mentioned about limited workforce. We want to encourage many medical staff to connect with that kind of speciality. Again, for the policymakers to also be stirred up to show some interest, to pump some resources into that. And I think this is key. If we want to empower people, we have to show we're interested in them before we can influence them positively. I like that. I love that. But is there any specific challenging situations that you can add to that? What you've just said in terms of working with these deprived individuals and communities in Ghana? Maybe.
Yes, in my environment, there are a lot of challenges that I think I can share with some of us. You know, the name neglected indicates that nobody's interested in that area. And they are all tropical diseases happening all over the world in areas where tropical conditions are prevailing. And they are diseases. Most of them present on their skin, and they deform individuals and make life very miserable as they move along. And I think making them aware of these diseases at the infantry stage is key, so that they can devise means to prevent them. Unfortunately, because of the way they look, some of the conditions look, most of the current young officers are not interested in going to those areas. Right. And they should also remember that they are our people. We cannot exchange them for any other people again. So we have to be part in helping them address some of these things. And the challenges are that resources like geographical accessibility to the nearest facility is challenged. Financial accessibility is also challenged. They cannot afford simple care. They also cannot reach these facilities, and governments are not able to provide everything to the rural communities to the extent that they can have easy access to healthcare. So, having had these challenges, I think it really dampens the spirit of the individuals or the rural folks, say that they don't have trust and belief in the care, and then resort all kinds of things that will end up deforming them later on. Right. So the challenge is that we have to help them, educate them, empower them to take their health in their own hands. And that way we enlighten them on some of the diseases that we're talking about, so that they can see early signs and address them.
Wow. Right. Wow. It sounds like it's a huge
challenge. Yes.
A challenge you face in that country, in Ghana per se, our own country. In relation to what you've said, how much is the NGO involved, the non-governmental organizations involved, or if there's any talk?
Well, yes, naturally, health sector, government cannot do all. So individuals, organizations, and philanthropists form institutions and then come in to support, not only in Ghana, but all over the world. In Ghana, we have few of them who are into health sector supporting in various ways. And every NGO has an interest in a particular area. But for looking at where I really work with the neglected tropical diseases, we have few of them operating. Some are coming from Spain, others too are also coming from US and other countries. And they are in with strategy of helping to really educate the people in the rural communities, helping them to search for these cases as early as we can, address them, educate the people so that further we will not get some of these diseases. And it's very interesting to note that the response is great. But again, one will say that it is important for every government or that comes to power to look at health sector and put more emphasis on the rural folks, their health conditions that they need to address. They are very simple areas, but if we allow it to deteriorate, then they become a burden to manage. Yes.
Yeah, I think that you are right. You know, when the preventative interventions don't go in as soon as possible, then of course it becomes insurmountable and burdensome, and people become helpless. And of course, that needs more resources. So thanks for sharing that. But in the midst of those areas, in the storms and the challenging situations, do you have any key highlights in terms of your engagement with deprived communities, promoting their health through empowerment and training of other local health providers. Is there any specific you can share with us and to for our listeners to know about?
Yes, many years ago, when the disease was quite devastating, especially in our country, Ghana, and some West African countries like Cote d'Ivoire and Benin, it was necessary for us to research into the cause of the disease. And I was very instrumental in making sure that researchers came to the country, and then we went to the rural areas to pick samples of all these conditions and researched. And we found so many interesting things. Earlier on, the conditions were said that you had to do some surgeries. But as I speak today, you find the cases in as early as you can, and you don't need to do surgery. We have now developed antibiotics that is helping, and I've been very, very instrumental in all these areas. We bring a lot of clients or patients to the fore and treat them, and treatment has been free till today.
Wow.
Yes, and because of that, WHO, World Health Organization, is able to use Ghana in so many areas to educate the whole world, the NTD fraternity, in terms of type of research work that we need to do, like diagnosing the cases on the field, that is point of care diagnosis, and also case management using antibiotics and not necessarily ulcer. And this has been very welcoming to all of us.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing. In terms of that is an excellent key highlight, in terms of progress made in spite of the limited resources. If anybody wants to connect with what is provide some resources, for example, individuals, and I appreciate organizations, best to come from organizations, but if one wants to be, our listeners are inspired to connect with what you are doing, and I know you mentioned earlier the World Health Organization is involved already. So there may be a website where they can be directed to connect and learn more about it. And then if they are motivated to help, then that could be one of the areas. But in addition to that, do you have any words of encouragement or advice for our listeners to take away?
Yes.
In terms of your experience.
Yes.
And
Your neglected tropical diseases, if you allow me, I will mention about 10 or more of them. We have many.
okay.
You see, we have
few
ulcer, one. We have yours. Yours is also, most of them are skin conditions. We have leprosy. You'll be surprised that leprosy is still in place. It's not gone yet. We have leishmaniasis. We have lymphatic filariasis, trachoma. These are all conditions that affect rural folks in tropical areas.
Wow.
I'm happy to say that even in Ghana, presently, we've been able to eliminate guinea worm. Guinea worm eradicate, guinea worm. Guinea worm is also another form of skin diseases, which is quite devastating. We've been able to deal with trachoma, and in Togo, Republic of Togo, for instance, they've been able to deal with lymphatic filariasis, or I think one of the diseases. And I want to say that these conditions are doable in the sense that we can manage them. Unfortunately, we are not, because many of the rural folks don't know how they come by. Some are born into the environment where disease prevail, and they will have to live with it. Schistosomiasis, that's bilharzia, is also one of them, and so many other things. But the beauty of it is that we are creating a lot of awareness for others to look at it. We are not only looking at malaria, malaria, HIV, and then tuberculosis only, but we are looking at the ones that affect a lot of people in the world. And WHO has set an agenda, a vision of 2030 to make sure that some of these neglected tropical diseases are dealt with. So we have a milestone by 2030. We should be able to do so many things, and a lot of teams have been put in place to ensure that the bottlenecks, the gaps in all these interventions that we are doing are filled, so that hopefully by 2030 we should be getting somewhere. Right. Some of them can be eradicated completely. Wow. Yours, for instance, can be. So it is encouraging and refreshing, and also assuring that with the effort that we are putting in place, we'll be able to deal with these conditions, especially in my environment in Ghana and West Africa, some of the diseases that yes.
Wow. It sounds, there's been a lot of progress made, but at the same time, we need the whole government and individuals and the medical team to show some interest in supporting those areas, because again, there's financial implication, and apart from the manpower, the people there have to be supported in order to support. You cannot, someone will say, you can't pour anything out of empty cup. So again, the practitioners have to be equipped in order and be well supported to reach those communities and bring some changes, meaningful changes that are relevant to them, and to improve standards. Exactly. I appreciate what you've done. So on this note, we want to appreciate Dr. Edwin Ampadu for his time and for sharing nuggets of wisdom, including some of the challenges she's managed to be deliberate and stay true to his mission as a public health specialist. Yeah. You heard about the challenges that he highlighted. And if you want to connect with what she shared more, I will encourage you to connect, go to the World Health Organization's website.
With emphasis on neglected tropical diseases.
Yeah. And look out for neglected tropical diseases, which you heard him mention some of them. But this is truly honorable in terms of, in spite of the limited resources and challenges, he's quite deliberate, intentionality. This is what this podcast is about, staying true to your values, is even though the reward may not be that huge, because of his mission to empower individuals within those deprived areas, and also supporting other healthcare providers through training and equipping them so that they can also join the workforce that are needed. So, thank you for your time with us. If you are interested to come and share your unique story, I invite you to connect with Gifty Annie, your host, on beaconoflight30@gmail.com. And thank you so much for listening into this. And if you like it, please click the subscribe to this channel. And until we meet our next episode, I encourage you to keep on shining as a beacon wherever you've been called. Thank you once again. Thank you, Dr. Ampadu, for joining me. God bless you.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.